Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Rossi, and I am the Media Alliance of Houston president. Welcome to our January webinar. Our January webinar is brought to you by Basis Technologies, formerly known as Centro. I'd like to welcome Michael Thill, the VP of Client Development.
Thanks, Amanda, and thank you to the Media Alliance of Houston for having us today. As Amanda mentioned, my name is Michael Thill, and I work at Basis, formerly known as Centro. I've been with the company, 14 and a half years now, and we have evolved a lot during that time. But our mission has always remained the same. Let's make advertising fun again. Let's remove all the manual data work entry that goes into our jobs that bogs us down, and let's get back to what we really like about this industry, which to me is strategy, creative brainstorming, and doing really great work for our clients. We built a technology that many agencies are adopting to really help them manage all of their paid digital in one place. So that allows media teams to plan, execute, and report against paid social, paid search, programmatic, and site direct channels. And for leadership, that means you have greater insight into your business, revenue forecasting, and benchmarking data for new business opportunities. We say Basis is truly a platform you can run your agency business on top of. So feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn if you'd like to hear more. But in the meantime, thanks y'all for joining us today. Thanks for having us. And we're really excited to hear more from Converse Digital. Amanda, back to you.
Thanks, Michael. We would like to thank all of our corporate sponsors: Odyssey, Basis Technologies, Brivik Media, Clear Channel Outdoor, Cox Media Group, Effective, Freed Advertising, iHeart, KHOU, KIAH, KPRC, KTRK, Love Advertising, MMI, Outfront, Telemundo, and Univision. Membership renewal emails have been sent out for January through June membership. If you have any questions or are interested in becoming an MAH member, you can reach out to our VP of Membership, Avery Dominich, whose email is on the screen. We are also officially announcing that we are postponing our Star Awards Gala, and we will be announcing a new date soon for later in the spring, so be on the lookout on social media for our new date. I also wanted to send a reminder to all of our finalists. Congratulations to all of our finalists, but essays are due this Friday, January 14th, so make sure that you are getting those in. Details on who to send those to are in the emails that were sent to you. Another note for our upcoming gala, we're wanting to make sure that we are honoring those who have passed the last 2 years for gala. So if you know anyone that should be included in our in memoriam, please contact Kelly Rodriguez, and her email is here, and we can also include it in the chat as well. And again, just as we are preparing for our upcoming gala, if you have any items that you can contribute to our silent auction, which will go towards being able to raise money for scholarship, please contact our VP of Fundraising, Stephanie Weaver McKee. And our final announcement, for those of you that are 3 or less years in the industry, we have our upcoming December Making Access Happen with KHOU on January 18th. KHOU is hosting with Sonia Hamilton and Elizabeth Bond on video solutions that drive business results. So you can reach out to Liz Ferrari for more information if you're interested in joining. And we'll also be sending these details out on social media and through our emails. So if you're not on our listserv, you can go to our website to sign up as well. And so now I will turn it over to Chris Caldwell, our VP of Programming, to introduce our speaker for today's webinar.
Thank you, Amanda. Tom Martin is an internationally recognized keynote speaker, thought leader, agency owner, and the author of The Invisible Sale, which is available on Amazon. He resides in New Orleans with his wife, Missy. He has 4 kids, Madison, Davis, Hayes, and Mays, a daughter and 3 sons. In his spare time, Tom enjoys stiff drinks and good debates. He also hosts some really good Mardi Gras parties from his office on Canal Street. I can personally attest that I went a couple of years ago. On a personal note, Tom and I both started our careers at the same Dallas agency in the early 90s, where our annual salary was in the teens. So without further ado, please welcome Tom Martin.
Oh, and he left out, we were roommates. So if anybody needs dirt later on, just email me, and for the right price, information is available. Okay, let's see here. Screen one. All right, so they have told me that I have you for about 45 minutes, and then we've left about 15 minutes of Q&A. So we will go to this. So hopefully everybody can see the screen there. I'm just going to jump right in and talk about what we came here to learn about today, and that's really how do you leverage digital content and digital platforms, frankly, to build, rebuild, manage a reputation. And I've written this today really to talk about personal or maybe like agency reputations, but just know that everything I'm talking about here applies for brand and corporate reputation management as well. So just hear both things as I go through. I guess the first place to really cover is to kind of think about how reputations are built. Okay, so you've all heard this, right? Your reputation precedes you. I would say that while that's always been true, it's I think since the internet and just sort of the abundance of digital content and social media platforms, etc. While this has always been true, it's never been truer than today, because if you think about it, you never have to actually meet a stranger. If I'm getting ready to meet someone, if they're coming in for an interview, if I'm going on a sales call or whatever, if I want to know a little bit of something about that individual, I can do that, and I can do it pretty easily. So the only strangers you ever really meet nowadays are people who really, they want to be a stranger. They don't care to do the work ahead of time. And so really what that means for you is that perception is reality. So all the information they find out about you, the reputation that they source through maybe things you've posted on social media or things you've done that have been captured by the internet and are posted someplace on a website, etc. That is your reputation. It's based on the perception that they have of you based on this information that they find. Maybe they know some people that know you and things that those people tell them about you, etc. And so that reputation is your reputation right up until the point of experience, the first time that they meet you in person, on a Zoom call, maybe a telephone conference, etc. And I used to believe wholeheartedly that perception was reality up until that point of direct experience, right? And what I learned through some pretty interesting studies and some experiments that we ran in 2009 and 10 is that wasn't necessarily true. Yes, perception was reality up until the point where somebody met you. But you could certainly, through use of digital content, digital platforms, etc., in a strategic process, you could manage, build, re-image, etc. But what was interesting is I used to believe that once that experience occurred, once you were meeting someone face to face or over Zoom, as it is nowadays, that experience really took over and that became your reputation, right? But what we learned through really the 2010 version of the experiment we ran is that isn't necessarily true when you bring digital into the equation. So it's kind of actually apropos because as Chris alluded to, our office is on the Mardi Gras route. We are in New Orleans, and it is Mardi Gras season. It started Jan 6th, so we're here. And I want to just kind of show you this because this lays the bedrock for just kind of everything I'm going to show you after this. Everybody, I assume, knows what Mardi Gras is, but anytime I talk about it or talk about this particular case study, I always want to just make sure that we ground everybody. So everybody knows Mardi Gras is really about the 3 B's: booze, beads. And if we were face to face right now in a room, this is usually the place where most, if not all, of the audience is giggling like 13-year-old boys, because that's the reputation of Mardi Gras, right? And it's so strongly woven into people's psyche that I didn't even really need to use the word. I didn't need to show anything. I just needed to put the second letter of the alphabet on its side, and everybody instantly got that third B. But the reality is it's really not necessarily all about that. In fact, it starts to look a lot more like this if you live here. And I've taken my kids to Mardi Gras every year since they've been born, and the oldest is 24 now. And so in 2009, I wanted to understand, could you shape perception? Could you shape or reshape reputation, virtually? Could you strategically plan a narrative using content, using digital platforms? And could you, if you followed the strategic process, could you move a reputation from where it is, in the case of Mardi Gras, Girls Gone Wild, to a place that most people might not necessarily take it, which in the case of the experiment was we wanted to reframe it as family-friendly fun. And so we did that. In 2009, we did it just myself, my iPhone, and we invited people to follow along. In 2010, we expanded that. We used some live streaming video. We brought in back then what we called guest bloggers. Nowadays, I guess you would call them influencers. And we did, we had a destination website where you could see all the content we were producing. But in both cases, we never actually told anybody what to believe. We never told them what their reputation was. We simply tried to create a narrative using content, and then do some research to see, what would come out. And the interesting thing was that it worked. In 2009 and in 10, when we ran the brand linkage study before and after, what you saw was a reduction in those girls gone wild type linkages, things like crazy and flashing. You saw a massive increase in the family-friendly stuff, tailgating, family, food. If you've ever been to Mardi Gras, food's a big part of it. It's New Orleans, a big part of everything down there. Ladders, the reason that went up is that that is a big part when if you have little kids, you put them up in these seats that you build on top of ladders so that they can actually see the parade, and so that the riders can see them and throw things to them. So that kind of became a symbol, if you will, of this family-friendly aspect of Mardi Gras. And so what was really interesting is in 2009, it really moved a lot. And so we did it again in 10. And in 10, though, we added an interesting nuance that really led to a pretty remarkable and I think surprising, at least for me, development, which was we did the same study in 10, but what we did is we asked one additional demographic question, which was, have you actually ever been to New Orleans Mardi Gras? And I think it was roughly around half and half. Half the audience that we surveyed half hadn't. And so what we wanted to understand was, sure, yes, if you've never been to Mardi Gras, we knew we could alter your perception of the reputation. We could rebrand, if you will, or reframe the reputation of Mardi Gras. But we wondered, for people who've actually been here, right, they've had that moment of experience, could we reframe theirs? And the resounding answer was yes. The numbers were almost identical to the numbers you see on this screen. There was a little bit less of a shift, but really not materially noticeable. And so the aha there was that, wow, it used to be, everybody said you only get, one chance to make a first impression. But what this study taught us was that maybe that's not true. Maybe with a properly structured, strategically focused digital effort, you can not only get a first, but a second, a third, a fourth. I mean, you can continually modify, evolve, and manage your reputation simply by controlling the narrative that you put into the world through digital platforms. And that's really what set the stage for everything I'm going to show you from here on out. And what I'm going to show you isn't just theory. What I'm going to show you is the actual process I've used for the last 12 years of my career that has led to me, positioning myself, and I hate this word, but a thought leader, somebody who's invited to speak in webinars and conferences and who's written books and et cetera, and who is, I think, considered amongst some as being pretty darn knowledgeable about certain things. And this is the process that I use. I'm going to show you some more case studies of things that we tested so that you can understand that this isn't just theory. This is actually real life. It's been proven and it works. So what you have to think about is when you think about how a reputation is really built, right? It's interesting. It kind of breaks down into 5 areas, right? There's what you say, obviously. There's where you say it, which can be groups that you're in, conferences that you attend, organizations that you belong to, etc. Right? Because that has a halo effect on you. There's where you hang out, which again can really be an organizationally oriented thing. There's who you talk to. Obviously, if you're someplace and you see somebody and they're maybe there's a really well-known speaker who's highly thought of and they're engaged in this very deep conversation, and you realize, wow, this person knows that person. Or you see this a lot in social media. It was actually the beauty of Twitter back in the early days, 08, 09, when you used to be able to see not only the person speaking's tweet, but you could see who they were speaking to, and you could literally follow the conversation on Twitter. And what was interesting is that you would try, if you were trying to build a reputation, you would try to engage with well-known people, because people would say, oh, wow, look, so-and-so is talking to this guy, Tom Martin. I don't know who this guy is. And when they would go and look at your feed, they would see not only are you talking to this guy, but you're also talking to all these other influencers or thought leaders or gurus or whatever the word of the day was. And again, that created a halo effect. All of a sudden, it's like, well, wow, maybe I need to be following this person too, because he seems to know all these smart people. Maybe he's a smart person I just haven't heard of yet. And so you started to kind of build your reputation that way. And then lastly is what you shared. And this is the newest quadrant, really. Sure, your entire life you've been able to take an article out of a paper or rip something out of a magazine, put a little letter, put it in the mail, send it off to somebody. But what the digital era, and especially social media, ushered in was this ability to share lots of content and curate content, if you will, so that you could use that activity as a way to help build your reputation. And so what we're going to spend our time on today really is these 2 quadrants here. And that is, how do you create, manage, build, re-image, whatever you're trying to do with reputation? How do you do that through creating content? And then how do you do it through curating content? Because it's these 2 halves that you bring back together as a whole that really allow you to build a reputation really along the entire spectrum, right? So I don't care if you just you're a young employee in a company and you're trying to make your colleagues, your clients, your bosses, whomever think like, wow, this person's actually really smart. They know a thing or two about such and such, whatever it is you're trying to build your reputation around. Or you're an agency, for instance, that's trying to position to be, really well thought of or really well known for a certain type of advertising or marketing or a certain industry or whatever, all the way up to maybe you are really trying to be a thought leader. Maybe you really do want to be that definitive voice that people look to as, a harbinger of, well, this is, whatever this person says, that's sort of law, right? They know everything there is to know about this topic. Anywhere along that spectrum, you're going to utilize these 2 aspects, and it's really what you do here that I believe opens up everything else. It's going to determine where you can show up, who you're going to talk to, where you're going to be in terms of where your content is going to appear and so forth. These 2 are the bedrock, so we're going to focus on those today. So let's start with curation, and I started here really for 2 reasons. One is universal. I don't care where on that spectrum you're trying to land. If you're, going for thought leader all the way down to, hey, I just want people to believe I understand media investment and that I can really give really good sound advice, either, as an agency person to my client or as a rep to an agency about, hey, this is really the best way to do this, and here's why. Regardless of what you're trying to do, curation is going to be a part of your process. It's going to be a pretty major part of your process. But the other reason I want to start here is because this one is, like I said, it applies to everybody. If you want to go all the way to thought leader, you're going to have to do some creation, probably a lot of it. But if all you're really trying to do is build your reputation, manage it, make yourself or place yourself in a position where you have more authority and therefore can be more persuasive, curation's your go-to tool. And the reason for that is that it's a hell of a lot easier. As somebody who's created a lot of content in his career, curation's infinitely easier. It's so much faster. And it really, I think, actually allows you to build at least the initial reputation base or shift much faster than you could if you just try to do it through content creation. And it's more targetable, which I'll get to in a little bit. And that can be really important, especially if you are, trying to use reputation as a way to make yourself more persuasive or more desirable to clients or customers who might be, I don't know, in different industries or different verticals, et cetera. Curation really gives you a tool that allows you to be a little bit more laser-like in your efforts than creation does. So I wish I could tell you this is brain science and that, I'm a rocket scientist or whatever, and it's super hard and I'm really smart because I know how to do it, but I would be lying through my teeth. It's really a very simple 5-step process. And every one of you can start doing this afternoon when you close this webinar. The first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to select a tool, okay? There are an abundance of curation tools out there. If you just, go into Google and type RSS reader or content curation platform, you're going to find a ton of stuff. My chosen platform is Feedly. I like it because it's super easy to use. I can open it up on my phone, on my iPad, on my computer, and there's all the content that I'm curating from all of the resources that I curate. It also has a team function. So at Converse Digital, we have a person who is responsible for actually executing all the social media post creation and scheduling. They do a lot of my post scheduling as well. And with this tool, if I see something I want to share, I can open it. I can add a little note to the piece of content, basically typing whatever it is I would type if I was actually tweeting it or sending it out on LinkedIn or whatever. And then I can save it to a share board where that person, when they open it up the next day, they say, oh, he wants to share this. They'll find the appropriate, like, hey, he's got an opening, Tuesday on LinkedIn. I'm going to put this on his Tuesday on LinkedIn. And so it allows me to curate a lot of content. It allows me to add a lot of value. But it makes it really easy for someone else to do the actual, time-consuming executional aspect. It also is a great tool if you have a team, because again, curation can be time consuming. Obviously, you've got to look at a lot of content. So let's say you're a sales organization for a media company. All of the reps could be, curating their own stuff on a personal board, but then they could be also sharing, good stuff to a company board that then becomes the basis for your company's social media, or that other reps could grab and look at. Same thing can be done for an agency. And so what that does is that spreads that workload across more people, allows you to curate more content, allows you to create a lot more signal, et cetera. So really good little tool. Not the only one does it, but it's the one that we've settled on over the last decade. Now, once you have your tool, then you have to populate it. So you really got to go and find people and places. And places are going to be media outlets, blogs, RSS feeds, Reddit, people on Twitter that share a lot of good info. You're going to bring all that into one good place so you can start to filter through and kind of start to build a repository of content. And then you're going to have to do the work. Okay. You're going to have to actually ingest it, read it, skim it. Now, I'm not saying you're going to read everything. At any given time when I open my Feedly, there might be 500 pieces of content. I don't read all 500. I've gotten really good at very quickly being able to triage a piece of content and realize this is either signal or noise. If it's noise, it gets thrown out. If it's signal, maybe it gets shared, maybe it doesn't. But you've got to do the work, because again, remember, you're not just trying to manufacture a reputation, for, pardon my French, shits and giggles. You're not just doing this to do it. You're doing it because you want to actually be able to persuade people that you are an authority and you are someone who should be listened to regarding a particular topic or topics. So, unless you want to be a mile wide and an inch deep, which a lot of people are, you've got to actually consume this content and learn and really, get to know whatever it is that you're really trying to become an authority on. And then you're going to just basically share the best of what you find. I would caution you here. This is probably the biggest mistake people make when they try to do content curation. Do not automate this function at all. There are a lot of people that do that. Like, if a certain blog post a new blog post, there'll be all these people, you'll see them, they just automatically grab it and they share it, right? Or if a certain person tweets something, they'll do the same thing, or LinkedIn or whatever. Do not do that, because when you do that, what you're doing is you're confusing action with accomplishment, as in you're doing a lot, right? But you're not actually accomplishing anything, at least nothing strategic. We live in a world that really suffers from content overload right now. There's just so much noise, right? So much noise being created in the world, that what you really want to do with this step is you want to be the harbinger of signal. You want to be that person that people follow because you're doing the filtering. You become sort of a human news feed, because that's what really leads to building up your reputation digitally, right? I mean, there are people that I follow for mobile, for SEO, for social media, whatever, and I do it because I can't possibly read everything I need to read to be really smart in what I do for clients. So I use them as my signal finders, and I don't read everything they share, but chances are if they share 10, 3, 4, 5 are probably gonna be pretty good. Great. That's what you want to be. You want to be that person. The other reason that you don't really want to automate this is that you want to add your own 2 cents. You don't just want to be flipping content. You want to add your point of view. You need to, if you're going to share a piece of content, provide some context. Tell somebody, hey, pay attention to this part of the article, or this was really smart, or hey, let me give you a little context so that as you read this, you kind of understand what's really going on here. Or hey, this is what's wrong in this article. Like they say this, but I disagree completely. Here's what I think. Because it's that added little point of view that you're adding, that's really where your reputation is going to come from. Because anybody can just flip content. That's really simple. But only a person who truly has some level of knowledge and insight can actually put something on there that adds value. So it's going to be really important you not do that. Just take the time. It's a little bit extra effort. But again, that's why if you're using something like a Feedly, it's a lot easier because you can share the wealth of the work and then just use each other's content. Now, where are you going to publish all of this? Well, obviously social media. Social media is where reputations by and large are built amongst those people who you do not know. But that's very important. My first agency that my wife and I started in early 2000s, brand marketing. One of the big lessons that I learned when Hurricane Katrina blew through New Orleans and destroyed the agency, not put all of our clients out of business, which then put us out of business. One of the big things that I really learned on that experience was that it wasn't enough to have a reputation amongst the people I knew, people that were in my database, right? I needed to develop a reputation amongst people I didn't know, because at any given time, that second layer of people, the people I didn't know, might need whatever it is I do, whatever it is I sell. But if I limited myself to just the people I know, well, then I missed this entire huge swath of opportunity, right? And that's kind of what happened in Katrina. All of our clients fired us basically because they went out of business, and our database of business development leads looked just like all the people who had just fired us. And that really left us in a world with no prospects. So use social media, use the digital tools, guest posting, all the things you can do there to build a reputation amongst people who you do not know, but who you want them to know you. Second thing I'm going to tell you to do is get a CRM, a customer relationship manager. If you have one and you're not using it, start. If you don't have one and your company can provide one, get one. If both of those are not an option, get one on your own. I mean, you can get really lightweight CRM tools like Nimble, which is web-based. I don't know, it's like $25 a month. To more robust solutions like this one, which is SharpSpring. That's what we use here at Converse Digital. And there's lots and lots of great reasons to have a CRM beyond just reputation management. But in terms of what we're talking about today, the reason you want to do that is because then you can take, and this really goes for the people that you know, and your customers, your clients, your prospects, you put them all in there, right? And then what you do is you tag them. And you really kind of tag them across, 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 planes. The first one is, what are they? What's your relationship to them? Are they a prospect, client, customer? Are they a colleague, a boss, or a boss's boss? Because you're maybe trying to build your relationship, or your reputation vertically. Media reporter. Maybe you're trying to be positioned as a thought leader or somebody who's highly knowledgeable, so that a particular magazine, newspaper, TV station, radio station, they're going to call on you when they need, that expert commentary. And then you want to look at industry, right? What industry are they in, or industries do they play in? For me, one of our other planes is tools, because a lot of times clients who hire us are only interested in influencer, or only in marketing, or only interested in content marketing, or social media, or sales training. And so, we'll kind of, slot our tagging system kind of in 3 planes. And the reason you do that is because it allows you to use a really simple but powerful tool, email, okay? And this is actually the title of the email in our CRM. This is the template. Thought you'd find this interesting. That is coincidentally also the subject line of the email that's outputted. And as you can see, it's really simple. It's not a difficult email to create. Hey, first name, because obviously your CRM is going to put that there for you. I ran across this article. I was reading it. I insert the link to whatever article I have, and then I put the key point, or maybe sometimes points of why am I sending this to you? What's interesting about this? What's important about this? Why should you be reading it? And then I just say, hey, if you don't want me to do this anymore, let me know. I'll take you off my list. Otherwise, I'm going to keep emailing you when I find things. Super simple, super easy. But what it allows you to do is, because you have a CRM, because you've tagged all these people, you take what is oftentimes a one-to-one business development, marketing, nurturing, whatever you want to call it, effort, and you make it a one-to-many that still feels one-to-one. So then what you do is, let's say you come across a good article, you find an article about some Yahoo over in New Orleans that's inviting people to follow him on Twitter. He's going to convince them it's not girls gone wild, it's family fun. And you go into your database, you say, this is a really cool article. There's a lot of good learnings here. Specifically, I think that if you're interested in influencer marketing, if you're in tourism, or your content marketing strategy, you're either interested in, or you're responsible for that, this is an article that would be interesting to you. And then you just simply create the email. And that might be one where you might have 2 or 3 bullet points. You might have a piece of insight about why this is such an interesting article from an influencer, a marketing lens. And certainly this is really interesting from a tourism marketing standpoint. But you might add in there, this could also be for other types of brands or industries. And then you might put something about why this is a really cool way, or how this is a brave new thing. No one's doing this kind of thing in content marketing or social media, whatever. You pull all that together, and then boom, you hit send. And now, depending on the size of your list, you've just touched and helped to build your reputation through curation. 5, 10, 100, 500, 1,000, right? And I will tell you, this will become your favorite email list. It's the only list I have a 0 unsub rate from. Nobody ever unsubscribes from this. And they won't, as long as I continue to be respectful of the access they've given me, and I continue to try to provide really good information. But in doing so, when they get this, they get a benefit from it, and they get to see something that says, wow, that Tom Martin guy knows a thing or two about influencer and tourism and content. And that's just adding to the reputation, right? Because that's what you're really doing here, is you're creating reputation by association. Very, very simple. That's this whole process is trying to say, hey, I am this person because I'm associated with this kind of content and I have these thoughts. And when you look at reputation, right? If we go back to the slide I showed you a little while ago, out of the 5 wedges, 4 of the 5 are association wedges. Where you say it, where you hang out, who you talk to, what you share. That's all reputation by association. And so what that shows you is that so much of our reputation is actually driven by our association. But precious few of us really have a strategic plan powering that association. We're not thinking about it necessarily. We're sure as heck not planning it. But if you will do that, if you will sit down and plan through that, and really put together a process and give yourself the tools, and you can do this in as little as a half an hour to an hour a day, no problem, if you're really serious about it. If you can do that, you can absolutely build, manage, re-image your reputation in any number of ways. But you're going to have to be willing to do it pretty consistently for about 9 to 12 months. Okay. And the reason I know this is because I tested it. If you ever read a lot of my stuff or follow our blog, you'll find that one of the things I like to do is I like to create these little research studies, like the Mardi Gras study, so that I can test theories in real world environments and kind of see, what's going on. So a few years after I started the company, mobile was getting big. And I was a social media guy, certainly, but mobile was getting big, and I didn't want our agency to miss out on the next big thing. And so, and I wanted to see, like, could I make myself a mobile guy? Could I make people believe social media Tom was really mobile marketing Tom? And so I spent about 9 to 12 months, but my problem was, I didn't really have any background in mobile whatsoever. We weren't doing mobile for any of our clients. I don't think I'd ever done mobile for any of my clients. My entire mobile marketing experience came down to two things. One was a content project we did for Emma, it's an email marketing platform, and it was right when the iPhone, I think 3 came out, and you could all of a sudden you could actually edit video on an iPhone 3 or 4, one of the two, and there was this blogging platform that you could actually run off of a phone. And so we came up with this idea that, hey, we're going to do a 50-week video marketing or video blog, and we're going to run the whole thing from a phone. There's going to be no computer involved. And Emma thought it was great because it was like, hey, technology isn't hard. You can do if this guy can do this with a phone, think what you can do, with a laptop. And that was it. It was just basically, hey, look at us. We're creating content, and we're, getting really good at lighting and microphones and all kinds of stuff that helped us make better content using an iPhone. Stuff today that is pretty rudimentary, but back then was considered kind of cutting edge. And my other thing was I was goofing around with QR codes. We weren't using them for any of our clients, so I went and had a couple of T-shirts made, and I would wear them at conferences where I was speaking or attending. The one up there on the right, are we linked in? If you scanned that, it would take you to my LinkedIn, and you could connect. If you scan the one on the bottom there, are you following me? That would take you to Twitter, because obviously you follow people on Twitter. And as my employees today like to make fun of me, yeah, they were kind of geeky, they were a little cheesy, but it would create noise, it would create attention. No one had really done that, and back then everybody was talking about how QR codes were going to be the next big thing. They didn't realize you need a pandemic to really make that happen, as we've now figured out. But nonetheless, it was tough. And then I would create a little bit of content. I would come back from a conference and I'd say, oh, I met 100 people and only 20 scanned, and and I just kind of make up content. But that was it. That was the extent. And then the other thing I did is I curated a ton of content around mobile, right, and QR codes. And about 9 months in, all of a sudden I'm getting calls, and I'm being asked to come speak at conferences and things of that nature, and talk about mobile, or I'm being asked to be interviewed for somebody's website, and I'm doing video interviews talking about QR codes, and they're titling expert Tom Martin. And at the time, I was fortunate enough, I was writing for Ad Age on their small agency diary, so I obviously I wasn't going to miss an opportunity to make social media Tom, mobile marketing Tom in each one of the 2 biggest trade pubs in our industry. So all of this, I'm just doing this. I'm just spinning all this, right, for 9 to 12 months. And again, I'm not doing anything really for clients. And guess what? By the end, not only am I speaking at Blog World, which back then was really the preeminent, at least US based and maybe even worldwide conference for social media and content marketing and so forth. Not only am I speaking in the mobile track, I and a buddy of mine named Tim Hayden out of Austin, we are curating. And they were publicizing the fact that Tim and I are curating this track. We're finding the speakers and so forth. And here, me, I'm not a mobile guy. Tim was running the mobile practice at Edelman, so it made perfect sense that they had him curating it. But I was just some guy who was putting QR codes on T-shirts and doing a video blog off my iPhone. But yet, here's this conference, and they're putting me out there in the front end. And what people don't realize is that when I first got approached to write a book, it wasn't The Invisible Sale. Actually, it was supposed to be a mobile book. I was supposed to co-author one with Tim talking about mobile. And we actually started the process, and I kind of figured out this is probably not the best idea, because I'm really not a mobile guy. This was just sort of something I was doing on a lark, and I was trying to do a little research project, etc. And so I peeled out, and luckily for me, the acquisitions editor liked me and said, do you have another book? And I said, yeah, I do. I can write this one here, which became obviously a much better long-term strategy for me, because if you're going to go through the process of curating a reputation, you should curate it on something that obviously is going to benefit you professionally, where you can better sell your services or enhance your career opportunities, etc. And so when it came time for me to move from simply curating a reputation to actually creating one, this really became sort of the launching pad for that, which actually kind of brings us back to where we started. And that is the two sides of building a reputation. Okay. And so obviously curation, we've talked about that. You can do a lot of it. I do it to this day. I mean, there's 2 or 3 days a week. I'm sitting with coffee and on my Feedly. I've even got a little a web little thing that I can, if I find anything on the web, I can add it to my Feedly and send it. And so I'm constantly curating, but I'm really strategic about it. There are certain things that I will curate, and there are certain things I won't curate, simply because I want to become, known for knowledge, but I want to become known for a certain type of knowledge. And I want that because I do use thought leadership as a business development tool. I do, and I want to be, that person who's invited to speak at conferences and so forth, or who is the last word, so to speak, on something. And so to do that, I can't just curate my way to that. I have to create. You will have to as well. If you truly want to be the resource, you will have to create. At some point, you're going to have to take and come up with your own ideas, your own point of view that is unique and different and so forth. And you're going to have to put it out in the world, because by doing so, what happens is you become known for knowledge. You're not just known for associative knowledge, you are known for your knowledge. You're going to come up with concepts, with ideas, with points of view that are going to be uniquely yours. And those will be what you're known for. The Mardi Gras thing that I did in 09 and 10, I was probably one of the only, I might not have been the only, but I was certainly, if there were a couple of us, there weren't many of us, who were actively trying to figure out how to use social media from a branding and a brand management or development or point of view. At that time, everybody was looking at social media as a customer relations tool, really. And so I became known for knowledge. My reputation was, oh, he's the brand guy. He's social media, but he's the brand marketing guy. He's one of the only agency guys who's really in social media. Agencies really hadn't jumped on board yet. So it's a great, when you're creating that kind of content, it's great in that it can help you become known for knowledge. And that's an excellent tool as a reputation enhancement strategy. But it's an even more powerful tool as a business development strategy, because when you become known for knowledge, and when you become someone that is inextricably linked to a certain kind of knowledge, and you're positioned as somebody who's pretty authoritative on that piece of knowledge. From a business development standpoint, and this, I'm speaking really directly to you and the agency side here, what happens is clients come to you. I will tell you, we have not done, we're 12 years in May, I haven't done an RFP in 12 years. And I used to run biz dev for agencies, so I've done a lot of RFPs in my life. But we haven't done one in 12 years. We haven't sent a clutter buster, we haven't cold called, we haven't done any of that stuff, because we don't go find our clients. They come find us. And they come find us because we lead with knowledge. Whether you're on our website, whether you're on any of the other places where we share our knowledge, whether we're publishing or we're participating as a guest on an interview, or we're speaking at a conference, or we're doing a webinar for a trade organization in another city. It doesn't matter. We are leading with knowledge. We are knowledge first. We are putting free stuff out there. Yes, we have some knowledge that's behind paywalls and so forth, or registration walls. But we are putting a ton of stuff out there for free for people to find. And more importantly, we're putting content, and this will be key. If you really want to be known for knowledge, you can't just take a man fishing, you have to teach him to fish. I think one of the greatest compliments I got on my book, and I've heard it a couple of times, is how prescriptive it was, that it wasn't just conceptual, that I actually really literally gave people our system in grave detail. And people were like, wow, we can't believe you literally gave them the keys to the kingdom. I was like, yeah, that's fine. It's for people who can't necessarily afford to hire us. But they should also be empowered to do this. There's enough fish in the sea, all boats will rise kind of thing. But that's what you have to do. You have to be willing to share that knowledge so that people can see, you're not just a buzzword person. You don't just talk conceptually, your ideas actually make sense. That's actually really, really smart. Wow, I never thought of that. Damn, I need to do that. You've got to put that kind of content out in the world. And to do that, you're going to have to adopt what I call a cornerstone and cobblestone approach. Because when you start creating content, you start finding it takes a lot of time. And, none of us have enough time to really do this. So there's a system by which you can do this that speeds it up, makes it a little easier, and enables even a small little boutique shop like us to be able to put out, really a ton of content given the size of our manpower limitations. So you're going to start with a cornerstone. For me, one of those cornerstones obviously was the book, but my first big cornerstone was the Mardi Gras work. There was a lot of effort that went into that, both conducting the experiments, documenting them, analyzing them, creating the case studies and all of that. And I will tell you, it was the most important cornerstone, even more so than the book. This particular cornerstone forever changed the trajectory of my career, because whether it was just the right thing at the right time, I don't know. But literally this cornerstone is what launched Converse Digital, because as we came out of the 2010 and I started, doing conferences and writing blog posts and guest articles, and NPR interviewed me on Mardi Gras Day, and the word started getting out that, hey, there's this guy doing really cool stuff with social media around brand management, and this really launched, and it created lots and lots of cobblestones, right, that were all over the internet that I was freely giving away to anybody who would listen, because it was establishing me, and then ultimately led to me leaving and forming my own company, Converse Digital. It was establishing us as, wow, these guys really know social media, and they really know how to do it from a brand building perspective. So when you create these cornerstones, you need to be thinking, hey, I'm going to eventually break these cornerstones down into smaller bits and pieces, and I'm going to scatter those all over the internet, anywhere that'll take it. Anybody that'll let me publish, anybody that'll let me talk, anybody that'll let me be a guest on a podcast, whatever. You don't even really necessarily care how small or niche or how big. You're going to go. You're going to do it. You're going to spread that all around, put all that knowledge out there, and it's going to be good, helpful knowledge. Because I don't know about you, if you've ever sat on a webinar, and God, I hope none of you get off and do this today, because I'll be distraught for the rest of the day. You get off a webinar, you thought you're going to learn a bunch of good stuff, and you get done, and you're like, that was great. All he told me is a bunch of conceptual stuff. He told me a lot of whats, but he didn't give me any hows. Or you read a book or you read a blog post, and you're looking for how, and all you got was what and why, right? Pontification. You need to give the kind of knowledge that not that you can't do pontification content, but you've got to do how content. You've got to show people, teach them how to fish, because that's what really gets people. You'll find that's the kind of content people consume, like. It's definitely the kind of content people share. Absolutely. People love to share how content. So you got to do it. Build your how content, put it everywhere. And the reason you want to do that, because the people that you're looking to build a reputation against, right? Both your knowns and your unknowns. They have what I call propinquity points. There are places, there are conferences, there are websites, there are blogs, there are Twitter streams, there are all kinds of places that are digital domains or physical in the case of conferences. They're going to these places regularly. They're looking for information to do their job better, to be smarter, to be more valuable, right? And so you want your stuff showing up at all of their places. And you can map this. You can map it for an individual prospect. You can map it for a family of prospects. You want to map that, figure out what the propinquity points are, and then you want to figure out a way to make your content appear in all of those places, so that when a prospect, customer, your boss, whoever you're trying to impress, whoever you're trying to manage your reputation against, when they go to those propinquity points, it's you. Because your goal here is that when it comes to whatever it is you're trying to build a reputation around, you want to be the only voice that they hear. Now, chances are you're not going to be the only voice. I mean, that would be awesome. But if you can't be the only voice, you definitely want to be the dominant voice. You want to be, the one who, wow, either it's him talking about this or it's somebody talking about him talking about it. If you go Google propinquity marketing, and sometimes even just propinquity, you will find that in the first page of Google, if you do propinquity marketing, usually every single link on your page is either me, Converse Digital, or somebody, repurposing our content or talking about our content, referencing back to us. I want to be, when somebody thinks about propinquity marketing, if they get excited about that, I want to be the only voice they hear. Because if you can get even close to that, if you can be the only voice someone hears, well, they can't help but listen. They can't help but listen to you because you are the person. Your reputation is now solidified, whether you did it through curation, creation, and combination. If you're the only voice they can hear, they cannot help but listen to you. And that, at the end of the day, is why I think most of you are on this webinar. Because we work in an industry, all of us, regardless of what side of the aisle you sit, we work in an industry where at the end of the day, our value is, can we get people to listen to us? Can we get people to do what we say or what we suggest? Because when you look at who goes and advances in this industry, that's who it is, the people who can persuade. So if you will do this, if you'll commit to curation, those of you who want to really get high on the echelon, do a little creation or a lot of it, become that voice that they hear, become that voice they listen to. And I think you're going to find that you will be able to build a reputation that will make you successful today, tomorrow. And if at some point you need to, change that reputation, evolve it, you just change what you're doing in your curation and your creation, and you will achieve the goal.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you all. And like I said, I've left, looks like I've left about 15 minutes for Q&A. If you're somebody who just doesn't like asking questions in an open forum, there's my email or Twitter, grab me at either place. Or if we just don't get to your question for some reason, feel free to avail yourself. I try to be really, really good about answering those things.
We do have a few questions in the queue here. First one, what are you working on next for either yourself or your clients?
We're doing two really cool things. For ourselves, we just launched courses this year. We've got some courses that teach this kind of prospecting and selling techniques for, we have one for solopreneurs like freelancers and consultants. And then we have one that's for ad agencies in particular, where we show them how we do it here. And I've always wanted to do it. It is something that we've been trying to do for a few years, and we finally launched it, so we're excited about that. For our clients, we're getting ready next week to launch a behavioral segmentation program, which is a super geeky, cool thing that I like to do. Basically, they gave us a couple of thousand names they don't know a lot about. We're going to run it through a strategically built behavioral email segmentation campaign. And when it's done, we'll hand them back the names rank ordered from most likely to buy to least likely to buy, and tell them exactly, like, here's your hot to trot, here's your warm, don't even talk to these people. And by the way, this is what we think this person wants to buy. It's the proverbial finding the needle in the haystack, and salespeople love it because instead of just handing them a list that they have to cold call and do that themselves, we do it for them. So I'm super excited to launch it because it's kind of geeky, but it's super cool when the client gets done and they call you back and they go, God, those 10 people you said wanted it, they all wanted it. You guys are like magic. So I'm hopefully you can tell I'm kind of excited about that. We're looking forward to kicking that off next week.
Cool. Next question. In your opinion, is there a best platform to use this curated content? For example, is it better to use Twitter or a blog website to share your knowledge?
It's going to sound like a little bit of a cop-out, but it depends. It really depends where your audience is. If your audience is on Twitter, then Twitter makes a lot of sense. We've got a new client in the youth sports space, baseball. Well, if you look at youth sports, especially baseball, those kids are in Instagram and they're in Twitter, frankly. It doesn't make any sense for him to blog or be on LinkedIn. We're going to look at TikTok and see if it started to move into TikTok, may or may not have. But that to me is what you do. You look, we call it social reconnaissance. You recon your audience, you find out where their propinquity points are, and then you manufacture, your best combination of platforms to make sure you show up consistently and make those all important impressions.
Great. Last question that's in the queue here. What is the standard for how often a brand or individual should post either shared or created content?
The proverbial
yeah, how often do you post?
We don't have a fast and steady rule for that. In our testing over the years, for instance, like Facebook, for instance, we had clients in the liquor space that were posting daily. We pulled them. They wanted to figure out, what's the least amount we can post and still be effective. And what we found for them was that fell between about 12 to 15. As we brought their posts down to 15 a month, we really didn't see a reduction in reach or engagement. As we got down to about 12, you started to see engagement starting to be impacted, a little bit of reach. And then when we got below 12 and definitely below 9, you saw reach fall off, you saw engagement fall off. So I think the answer to the question is test. Do that. Just move one variable. Obviously, Twitter, I've always felt like if you're going to be on Twitter, you got to tweet 8, 10, 15 times a day because it's a very immediate medium. And you're not scrolling back up. There's so much in front of you that you're going where you jump in and you're going down. You're not going backwards in the stream. I've seen Instagram stuff that says more than 2 or 3 times a day. I've seen people that just do a day. I just think it's just determined by what you're trying to accomplish. Us, we'll post a couple of times a week on LinkedIn, a couple of times on Facebook. We'll try to do between 5 and 8 on Twitter. More just because, like I said, it's a more active medium. And we do a combination, obviously, of our own content and curated content. And we probably do that at a, 10-to-1 ratio.
Good. All right, man. Well, thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate your time today. Amanda, do you want to wrap it up?
Thanks so much, Tom. We really enjoyed all the information that you had today and appreciate your expertise. Thank you so much to Basis for being the sponsor of our January webinar, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. We will be back in February with another webinar, and be on the lookout for our announcement of when our new gala date will be. So we will see everyone soon. Thank you.
Thank you all.